Today I'm with Mark Garnish, the Business Development Director of Tikit. Tikit are probably best known in the global law firm time recording market as the people behind the Carpe Diem system. Hello, Mark. Let's start off with a little bit of clearing up on the terminology, because I've known you a long time and I know you're a down-to-earth guy, and I know, even if you do shave your legs and cycle all the way from Land's End to John O'Groats for charity purposes.
I'd like to point out I did that without shaving my legs, just for the record.
That's probably why it made you slower on the timings there. But, when we come to time recording, in this country, it was always time recording. Once we move into the global world, it becomes time recording, time entry, time keeping, time capture. Is there any difference between all these terms, or is it just a bit of marketing hype?
I don't think there's any difference, in truth. There is a difference between the way the Americans address it, or the North Americans address it, and the way the Europeans address it. We tend to talk about timekeeping, they talk about time capture. There is more of a sense in America that the system should capture time automatically, perhaps rather than the lawyer or fee earner or attorney adding in the time themselves. But it's a matter of style. So I think we're just talking phrases, we're talking methods of time capture, and actually what we are seeing is that increasingly what the Americans are doing and what the Europeans are doing are merging together, as you would expect, because it's a global world. So I think it's a matter of style. There's no substance in difference, I don't think.
Yeah. Now, Tikit really made its splash in the time recording market with the acquisition of, first of all, the Carpe Diem product, and then later the Time KM product. But you already had a time recording system in your P4W product. So how did you, as the development director, cope with the fact you had 3 products to deal with at once?
Yes, that probably wasn't what we wanted. We certainly didn't want 3, but there was an opportunistic point for us. So yes, I'm glad you've asked. So let's deal with where we are. The Partner for Windows time recording system exists built into Partner for Windows, as you would expect. I mean, by definition, that's what it does. Carpe Diem and the Pensera product were completely different. So when Tikit had the opportunity to buy Carpe Diem from Sage, it wasn't one that we could turn down. It gave us access to the very biggest law firms in the world in terms of their time recording systems. Mm-hmm. And of course, Tikit had always been the European reseller for Carpe Diem anyway, so it was an obvious fit for us. At first, we bought the Pensera product because we saw a conversion strategy to move those products together. What we hadn't anticipated at that time is that we would end up completely rewriting both products. We didn't think that was where we were going to end up with, but that's what we've done. Mm-hmm. What we then decided as a result of that strategy was that why don't we take the existing Partner for Windows time recording system, merge that into the same product as well. So actually we are moving towards a single time recording product for our entire user base, which is actually about 1,000 law firms across the world, obviously from the very biggest to some of the smaller firms in the UK. But our aim is to have a single time recording product for everything that we do, because there really is no point in to try and develop more than one product if you can avoid it.
I was going to ask you about that, because I've noticed on some of your recent win announcements, you've had customers buying P4W and also buying Carpe Diem. And is it a case of there are some firms that want plain vanilla time recording and others that want a rather more elaborate, sophisticated, or is it just simply?
It's interesting when you say plain vanilla, because I'm not entirely sure what plain vanilla time recording is anymore. The most complicated time recording, oddly, is the time recording you have to do for the Legal Aid Authority in the UK. I mean, that is fiendishly complicated and is almost a bespoke product these days in its complexity. Apart from that, Carpe Diem, in its various flavours, is more than able to deal with the time recording from the requirements of a very basic law firm that perhaps just wants to measure time and an activity, to those that have some very sophisticated e-billing requirements. So I think the phrase plain vanilla perhaps doesn't apply for time recording anymore, in perhaps the way it used to.
So what's going to happen with the roadmap for the products?
Okay, so long term.
How long is long term?
Well, long term being as long as clients want to. We're not going to end of life anything. So we ought to make that absolutely clear. We are not going to end of life any current time recording product. But over time, we would like to think that all of our clients will migrate to what we are calling as a project name Carpe Diem NG, or Carpe Diem Next Generation. I have to say the more that time goes on, that may end up being its actual product name because we're all getting used to using it. Yeah. That is where we see all of our clients going. However, there will be no pressure on any of them to make that move. We'd like to think that over time they will just migrate to it. We're having some clients that have already made that commitment to move, some very significant firms. inappropriate to say who they are at this stage. And I think over time it will just become the natural place to go. And we are making that migration process as easy as possible for them. There is an easy migration path to get from one to the other.
Yeah.
So we think that everyone will go there eventually. But, you know, if we take the entire time recording base that we've got in North America and in Europe and elsewhere, of course, including all the partner Windows users, it's a big process to upgrade everyone. It will take a long time, and we will just take our clients with us as they're ready to do it. There's no pressure.
So, Carpe Diem NG, what are the differences going to be? Is it just a new lick of paint to an existing product, or is it going to be something totally different?
Well, it's massively different. NG is all about the user experience, or the UX.
Yeah.
It's all about that. We have made dramatic and significant and huge changes to the entire interface, to the whole concept of how time recording should be done. For the first time, certainly in my career, which is sadly becoming increasingly long these days, but we actually employed experts on human and computer interfaces, which perhaps naively, many people still think is all about making sure your screen looks pretty and is easy to use, and can we minimize the number of clicks. I had no idea that there was quite so much science in the whole process, and I now know things about cognitive bias, which I never knew before, and Miller's law, and it's all very complicated, and it's been fun to understand it. But by doing that, we have made some significant differences to the way that the systems work to try and make them as usable as possible. It also feeds into a common discussion point these days, which is about the consumerization of IT. It's something I've heard you touch on before in previous conversations. We all have iPhones, we all have Android or whatever, and nowadays you expect to download an app from the App Store, and if you can use it straight away and you like it, you might pay for it, and if you don't like it, you've probably deleted it within a minute of using it. Now, obviously commercial systems are different because they're designed to fit a business requirement, so it's not the same. But nonetheless, the principle of being able to download an application and use it straight away with minimal training is absolutely valid, and NG has all been about doing that. The other thing that we've done, I don't like to use the word unique, because as soon as you say something's unique, somebody else comes along and says, oh yeah, we do that too. So, which I believe to be a first, is that we are absolutely committed that Carpe Diem NG will work absolutely identically across every single platform upon which you deploy it.
Which platforms are they going to be?
So every mobile device that's out there, every tablet, every desktop, the lot. So, and your experience will be the same, irrespective of what you're using it on. And everything will persist across all devices. So if you start a timer on your mobile and then you suddenly go through a tunnel and lose signal, when you come out of that tunnel, then you would be able to pick up your tablet and the timer would be running on your tablet as well. And then you can go back to your office and stop it on the desktop, and it will stop it on all the other devices that you're using. And there will be not a single function that you can do on your desktop that you cannot do on your mobile and on your tablet.
So have you noticed any cultural differences between the way firms in the UK and Europe use time recording and the way they do in the United States, particularly with reference to things like the contemporaneous time recording and the assisted found time approach?
Some of these law firms are massive. They've got over 1,000, the big difference, they've got over 1,000 attorneys or lawyers, depending on which side of the pond you are. And in any given firm, there's the traditionalists that like doing it the old way. There's the ultra-modern, perhaps younger attorneys that want the system to do it for them. And of course, again, the mission for organisations like us is to try and deliver a method of time recording that suits every lawyer within these massive law firms. And again, there's a lot of effort goes into being able to do that.
And this new system, will be able to do all of those?
Absolutely,
things.
every bit of it. And in fact, if I can just refer to one slide that might, or a screenshot, this is one. What we've done with NG is that our found time, or passive time as it's sometimes called, is actually deeply embedded into the main user interface. So this isn't a case of, hey, I'll do my time recording and now I'll go to a separate application to see what time has been found or what time may I have missed, because that's a two-stage process. We've built that into a single-stage process. So in this particular screen here, the user has done a bit of both. They've done some time recording as they've gone along, and they've then said, oh, look, I've got some gaps, show me the gaps. And the system said, well, here's your gaps, and here's what you did in the gaps, and would you like to convert those into time records? So we're building it into a single interface. Again, I can't use the word unique for that, because it might not be, but we're not aware of most of our, or many of our competitors that are offering a similar approach.
Yeah. Are you finding that firms are now starting to use time recording as a management tool, as distinct from just purely a way of clocking up the hours?
Yeah, I'm very much so, but I think that's always been the case. I don't think that's a new thing. And in fact, if I can perhaps just refer to another screen here. This is just an example of one of the dashboards that we have in NG, and the bottom picture there is all about velocity, which is a very important metric. Mm-hmm. Again, it's being pushed from North America in this case, but is becoming very prevalent in Europe. And this is all about how long is it taking you from doing the thing that you're doing to actually recording the time. Mm-hmm. Now, that's the first one. The second one, then, is the metric about how long is it from the moment that we do the thing before we actually release that time record for billing. Because I can get 100% accuracy, I can do it there and then, but then I sit on it and don't release it to the practice management system for a few days, then clearly that will have a drag on the time it would take to actually then bill the thing that we did. And then the third metric is the third graph that we've got on there, and that's probably the most important one, is what is the delay from doing the thing that we do, or the time, the thing that creates the time record in the first place, to actually billing it. And of course, that can be days, weeks, months in some cases, and that's real money. So if a firm can reduce by 50%, that's a huge number, of course, but even by 10%, the delay in issuing a bill from actually doing the time record, then that plays directly into cash flows. And so that's the type of dashboards that we're coming up with now in our next generation product to actually help firms drive those numbers down, and that should have a real impact on the bottom line.
Mark, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, it's a pleasure.